Okay, I'm back. So my bad, my apologies for the yeah, there's just something wrong with my connection here. I think it's because bago lang bumalik yung kuryente. Anyways, okay, so I have to switch to data instead. Right. Sige, saan ba tayo? Speaking, generally. Okay, guys, please take down notes. It's very important for you to take down notes because there is no handout for this lecture. Okay, we are going to have our speaking skills enhancement this afternoon, and we will discuss as much as we can so that you can apply that when you have your coaching. Okay, so please take down notes and you have to really take by heart, especially yung mga importante. Okay? You can just select which ones you're going to write down, but you really have to take down those na importante. Yun. Speaking is subjective. That's why sabi ko sa inyo kanina, you have to learn the psychology of your speaking. Subtest. Like for example, although for some people they find it as a misconception, but for me, I still believe it's a factor. Your examiner. Okay. Yes, these examiners are supposed to be fair. They should give you what is due to you. Like if you're doing well, you should be given the right score, and if you're not doing well, you should likewise be given the right score. But sometimes there are other factors that you have to consider. Like for example, the connotation of your answer. What does that mean, ma'am? Ano bang ibig sabihin nun? Nung connotation ng answer ko. Let's say you will be asked about, do you like dogs? Okay? Do you like dogs? And that's a very subjective question, right? It can be a yes or a no. It doesn't matter. But what if your examiner is an animal lover? And then you said, I hate animals. What do you think would be the implication of that? Yes, supposed to be. They should not take your opinion against you. Yun. But sometimes it can be like that. So instead of saying, I hate animals, syempre, hindi naman ibig sabihin nun na you are going to lie. We don't encourage that. Okay, you're not gonna lie, but you just have to repackage. So that's one of the skill that you have to learn this afternoon. Okay, you have to identify if ano ba yung connotation ng ina-answer ko. Would it be insensitive kaya kay examiner? So instead of saying I hate dogs, why not say I am not into dogs? I am not fond of dogs. Okay? Why? Kasi yung hate, yung weight niya is very, it's too much and negative talaga yung connotation. What if the examiner is an animal lover? Okay. So dapat kayo din, you have to learn to be flexible. You need to be sensitive to your examiner because like what I've said, you need to learn the psychology of the speaking subtest. This is not just about what you answer. Yes, I believe na meron naman tayong skills to answer the questions. But sometimes we're not thinking what we're going to say before the examiner. Okay, so before you put across something to your examiner, you have to think first. Would this be insensitive? Okay, kung feel mo na parang ma-offend siya in any way, or possibly ma-offend siya, then might as well repackage or i-rephrase mo na lang yung sasabihin mo. Okay? So that's one of the skill that you have to learn, right? So please take down notes. Um, yeah, because again, there is no handout and there's even no slideshow presentation for this. So you just have to take down notes as much as you can, right? And that's one way for you also to practice your listening skills. Okay. Can you still hear me, guys? Hello?
Yes.
Can you still hear me? Okay. I'm sorry, I cannot
Yes,
turn
sir.
on my video because I think it's going to affect my internet connection. And yeah, aside from that, it's quite draining. Yun. Anyways, because in my case, I'm also studying online, so I have to minimize my what's this? I have to make sure that I will not have a Zoom fatigue since in the evening at 6 p.m. I will have a class in law school. And after that, by 10 p.m., I will also be conducting class here. So that's why most of the time I don't like turning on my video because it would lead me to Zoom fatigue. So that's one thing that I want to avoid. Okay. But anyways, just take down notes, all right? And you can just turn off your videos if you want. No need for you to show off yourself. But maybe sometime in the future, especially for we are going to have an exercise in the speaking, like one-on-one coaching and what else. Sometimes we are also going to have an exercise after the lecture. So I might require you to turn on your video so that I can see your facial expression and all. Okay, so for now, just kindly listen. Yon, makinig muna kayo sa akin and just take down as much as you can. Take down notes, right? So again, what is the skill that we have discussed earlier? It's about repackaging. Okay, so you have to learn how to repackage your statement. So let me write that. Wait. Hmm, where is it? There we go. Whiteboard. Repackage. Okay? Hindi yung repackage na magre-repack kayo ha, but when you say repackage, you're going to rephrase your statement and turn it to something na mas pleasing. Yun. Because we don't want to really offend the examiner. Okay? But you can still be honest naman. Like, if you really hate dogs, basta wag niyo lang gamitin yung term na yun. Kasi iba talaga yung connotation niya. Pangit talaga siyang pakinggan. So, just try to repackage. You can just say na, hindi ka mahilig sa dogs. Ganun na lang. Right? What else? Aside from repackaging, you also have to learn how to rephrase. Yun. Remember, guys, in your speaking, sorry, you will be graded according to 4 parameters. So we have fluency. Please take this down. We have the fluency. Uh, Fluency is basically your responsiveness to the questions. Yun. So nagmamatter din yung, hindi naman siya ultimately speed, but it is still a factor. If you are slow when it comes to answering the questions, if you are taking too much time just to answer one question, it will definitely affect your fluency. But again, it's not the ultimate factor. Okay, it's not the sole factor for you to be fluent or for you not to be fluent. But when you say fluency, this also includes your um, the enthusiasm. Yun. So when you say enthusiasm, the zeal for answering the questions, dapat when you speak, you should sound passionate. Okay? Therefore, you should not be monotonous. Yun. And there should be life. Hindi yung parang robot ka na magsasalita. So that's one way for you to improve your fluency. And it will not just only affect your fluency, but actually your pronunciation. That's the second criterion. Pronunciation. This is not pronunciation, but it's pronunciation, right? Now, the pronunciation, there is a specific class for this. So you might want to attend the lectures for the pronunciation. There are, I think, two, if I'm not mistaken, two lectures for the pronunciation. And I believe that that would be enough for you to somehow reassess and even improve your pronunciation. But you know, Filipinos are generally, or Asians generally, are good when it comes to speaking English. And kasama na doon is yung pronunciation natin. But remember guys, pronunciation is not accent. Okay? Although it would be advantageous if you have a certain accent, but that is not a sole factor. Just like sa fluency ninyo, yung speed, hindi lang yun yung basis, but marami pa actually. Now, for the pronunciation, hindi lang to about the accent ninyo. Ha? And in fact, we don't really want you to force yourself having an accent. Like, magbe-British accent kayo. Tapos, hindi naman pala bagay. Yun. Or, mag-Australian accent, mag-Aussie accent ka, but, it doesn't sound good. Of course, we would just recommend that you will use the neutral accent instead. No, neutral accent. The one that I'm using is neutral accent. This is not British. Yun, this is not Australian, so neutral accent lang siya. So if you want to have this kind of accent, you might want to watch YouTube videos that would help you how to reduce accents. So tawag natin doon accent reduction. But we're not going to discuss that this afternoon. I believe we don't have the luxury of time to discuss how we can improve our pronunciation. So, huwag kayong mag-alala. Meron naman kayong discussion for the pronunciation. No need for you to write down what fluency pronunciation is because you will have that defined in your major class. So I just have to reiterate and rediscuss these things para yun, ma-remind lang kayo na kung ano yung dapat na mga, the things that you have to be careful of, the things that you need to take into account. Ayun. And aside from the pronunciation, you also have what else? Wait lang, let me admit some students. Okay, aside from the pronunciation, we also have of course, just like your writing, you have the vocabulary. So the lexical resource and vocabulary. And this is actually the reason why you need to rephrase your statement. Lexical resource and vocabulary. Okay. So balik tayo dun sa rephrasing ha. I-relate natin siya. What are we going to rephrase, ma'am? Sabi mo magre-rephrase kami. Ano naman yung i-rephrase namin? Well, the one that you're gonna rephrase is the question. But you're not gonna reiterate the question ha. Hindi mo na kailangan pang, for example, what is your name? What is my name? You don't need to do that. And that's not that's not suggested. Okay, you should never do it. You should never repeat a question because you're just like parroting. Okay, and at the same time, you don't need to copy the same word from the question. So if there's something that you're gonna copy, wag lahat. Okay, at least meron kang isang word sa question na ni-rephrase. So that's what you mean by rephrasing. Why? Because your lexical resource and vocabulary accounts to 25% of your total percentage. Each actually, this is fluency 25%, pronunciation 25%, and then LRV is 25%. And then we have grammar as well, 25%, all in on 100%. So if hindi ka marunong mag-rephrase ng questions, sayang yung opportunity wherein you can show off your vocabulary. Because this is one way for you to, to somehow impress your examiner with your vocab. Remember, guys, you need to take these criteria by heart. Kailangan alamin mo talaga, ano ba yung mga factors for me to get my target score for the speaking. Anything else na wala dito sa criteria, non-bearing. Okay? Anything else na wala sa criteria, non-bearing. Ultimately, you are being graded according to your fluency, pronunciation, and LRV. So that is why you have to be intentional. Okay? You need to be intentional in showing off your fluency, your pronunciation, your lexical resource, and vocabulary. That is why yun din, dun pa lang sa as early as in your first sentence, you should be able to rephrase. As early as in your first sentence, you should be able to rephrase the question. But you're not gonna repeat the question ha, like, what is your name? What is my name? Hindi ganun. Okay? Of course, for what is your name, diretso ka na. You don't need to say, what is your name? My name is Blanche Colleen or Bistondo. No. Because it's just like the same thing. Parroting pa rin yun eh. You're not rephrasing. So why not say I am? Instead of saying my name is, I am, diretso ka, 'di ba? Simple pa. Tapos wala pang mga flowery words. Yun. So you just have to rephrase. What else? How old are you? Instead of saying I am 35 years old, 35 years old, why not say I just turned 35 on the 15th of April this year? Something like that. You just add some creativity on it. Yun. Or pwede mo na sabihin, I am 35 years of age. Kahit ganun lang. Basta wag mo lang kopyahin si I am 35 years old. Because, by the way guys, that's not my age. Yan, it's just an example. 35 years old. So wag mo sabihin 35 years old because you're just copying the question eh. Okay, so the principle here is you really have to find a way wherein at least merong isang word na na-rephrase dun sa question. Okay? How old are you? Don't say, I am 35 years old. But as much as possible, rephrase. Kayo na bahala paano nyo siya i-rephrase. Okay? But you can also have that approach, yung I am turning 35 by the 25th of December, or I just turned 35 on the 25th of April this year, or I am 35 years of age. It's up to you which one you're gonna use. Okay? Or if you have any other way of telling what's your age, then use that. Okay? Or for example, what do you do for a living? Or do you work? You will be asked by your examiner, do you work? Or what do you do for a living? Then you can say that, for example, I think lahat kayo, marami, predominantly the students are nurses. So, assuming na nurse ako, ayun. So, I would say that mm, nursing is my bread and butter. So, you can say that. Yun. So, what do you do for a living? Nursing has been my bread and butter for 5 years now. Yun. So, something like that. Kayo na bahala if paano nyo siya i-extend. Basta yun yung principle. You have to rephrase the question because, again, this is an opportunity for you to show your lexical resource and vocabulary. Now, what if, ma'am, wala akong words? What if, for that particular question, I'm out of focus, hindi ako nakakapag-isip ng masyado, and yun, parang wala pa ako sa momentum ko. It's fine. If ever pag-feel mo na wala ka pa sa momentum mo and you think like it's hard for you to generate words, it's fine. Don't pressure yourself. Walang problema dun. Okay? There's no problem if ever sa start nahihirapan kang mag-rephrase, okay lang yun. Yun. So yung option mo is either diretso ka talagang mag-answer ng question or kokopyahin mo na lang yung sa question. Example, I will ask you, do you like cooking? Okay, do you like cooking? So if you want to have a very direct answer, you can just say, yes, I do. No, I don't. So ikaw bahala, ano doon yung answer mo. Kung nahihirapan kang mag-rephrase, okay lang yun. So meron kang ganitong option. You can just directly answer it. Like, yes, I do. No, I don't. Have you been to London? You can say, no, I haven't. Yes, I have. Okay, ganun lang. Parang kukopyahin mo lang yung kung ano yung ginamit. Do, have ba, will, something like that. Kukopyahin mo lang siya. Now, if mahihirapan ka din gawin yan, so you can resort to just really copying kung ano yung na dun sa question. Yun na yung last option though. Okay? So if ever, wala ka pa sa momentum mo and parang sabog pa yung utak mo, you haven't made up your mind yet. Wait. Yun. Can you still see the whiteboard on your screen? Can you still see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ayun. So I hope that you're following, guys. Again, please take down notes and yun. Take this by heart talaga, yung speaking skills enhancement. If you haven't made up your mind yet, it's fine. Don't pressure yourself, okay? Don't beat out yourself just because you weren't able to do it well sa first part ng speaking. Okay lang yan. There are still many chances and opportunities na pwede ka pang makabawi. Okay? You can still make it up. Yun. Kaya mo pa yun. Meron pa tayong parts 2 and 3 sa speaking. Ayun. But, you have to make bawi the soonest time possible. Yun. So, for example, sabihin natin sa first 3 questions, medyo parang feel mo na, pangit ng sagot ko, ang pangit ng words na ginamit ko, hindi ko malang na-rephrase. Yun na lang. Bumawi ka na lang sa ibang questions. Walang problema dun. Okay? Kasi ganun naman talaga yung speaking. Eh. It's normal. Since this is spontaneous, it's really normal for us to commit errors, especially in vocabs, in grammar, even in yung speed natin when it comes to generating ideas in words. Medyo mahirap talaga yun. Kasi spontaneous eh. Diretso-diretso. Okay, you only have few seconds to think about your answers. Yun. But in the writing, medyo advantages siya because you have more time to contemplate and you can even have an outline. But in the speaking, we don't have that kind of opportunity. So yun, acceptable yun. Pag merong mga, uh, you know, parang like ganun, hindi mo na-rephrase, expected yun na examiner. But yun, expected niya din na babawi ka later on. Okay? So I hope na at least yung ganong expectation, na babawi ka, ma-reach mo yun. Yun. Kasi if consistent lang din na ganun lang yung approach mo, hindi ka nakakapag-rephrase, yung vocabulary mo pabalik-balik, wala din. Okay? Parang there's no plus factor and siguro magsasettle lang yung score mo to 6 to 6.5 if that's the case. Yun. Or even 7. But you know guys, the vocabulary is something that you have to take advantage of. In the speaking, this is something that you need to take advantage of. Why? Mas madali kasi itong gawin eh, si vocab. If you have like 2 weeks of intensive, vocabulary collection, yun. If meron ka magko-collect ka ng vocabulary for straight, even 1 week, you will see that your speech will improve. I tell you guys, 1 week magko-collect kayo ng mga new vocabs, like yung mga less common, yung hindi nyo pa nagagamit, yun. It is really going to improve your speech. And all the more you will sound more confident because you have already a bank of words that you can withdraw come the time that you have to speak, especially fluently. Okay? That is why, while you still have time, guys, to collect vocabs, please do it as early as possible. As early as now, dapat, palagi ko tong sinasabi sa students, bumili kayo ng malaking notebook or you don't need to buy one, especially now, it's pandemic. Anything, basta meron lang kayong big notebook or kayo ba gumawa, maging resourceful na lang kayo. Iba kasi yung big notebook eh, parang mas gaganahan kang mag-aral and magsulat kaysa yung parang maliit na notebook. Well, ganun lang naman din sa akin, but I'm not sure if ganun din sa inyo. Anyways, so yun, you can have a big notebook and write down your vocabularies, collect like 5 new words per day, and then you contextualize. Yun. So you use it according to its context. And at the same time, gumawa ka ng parang categories. For example, transportation. What are the vocabularies that you can use if ever the topic is about transportation? Okay? Sabihin natin, you have traffic jam, heavy traffic volume, pedestrian overpass, traffic enforcer, something like that. Okay? You come up with possible vocabs that you can use come the time that you will take your speaking examination. Dapat meron talaga kayong ganong klase na preparation. Okay? And maybe it's good that you have an inspiration in speaking. It can be a speaker, sabihin natin TED Talk speaker, or it can even be a host, something. Yun, kasi it will inspire you to improve your speech and all. Okay, so yun, vocabulary po guys, take that seriously. Yun. So prepare as much as you can, collect as many as possible, and practice as often as possible. Siya hindi pwede na isusulat mo lang dun sa notebook mo without even applying those words. Kasi pa if walang application din sa vocabs, baka mawala yung context and magkamali na yung paggamit just because, hindi mo pinag-aralan masyado how it should be used and when it should be used. Yun. So please collect vocabs. That's your personal assignment. I'm not gonna, give you scores for that, but you owe that to yourself, right? When your teacher tells you, guys, this is your personal assignment, even if your teacher is not gonna check that, but you owe that to yourself. Diba? Learning is something that you owe to yourself. Utang mo yun sa sarili mo eh. So, just give what is due to yourself. And I believe na every effort will really pay off when you when you take your exam. Kahit gaano pa yung kahirap yung preparation mo, the success is really going to be sweet. Kasi yun nga, nag-effort ka eh. Kasi yung wala lang, yun. And and IELTS, guys, IELTS is very specific. That's why if you've noticed, while you are attending the review lectures, for both the old and the new students, if you've noticed, meron talagang details, in-depth detail about how to achieve, for example, fluency, pronunciation, lexical resource, and vocab. Kasi yung preference ng mga examiner, grabe detailed sila masyado. They're very particular and specific. That's why as lecturers, we have to be very specific as well. And kayo din, you have to be specific. Hindi pwede na parang surface level lang. Okay, lexical resource and vocabulary. Basta ganun na yun. Hindi pwede yung ganung mindset. Dapat alamin mo, ano ba talaga yung vocabulary in the context of IELTS? Ayun. Para mas ma-appreciate mo din yung, IELTS and all the more, mas ganahan kang mag-aral. So, yun po. Yung vocabulary ninyo, dapat hindi repetitive. Dapat marunong kang mag-rephrase. And you need to make use of less common words. Huwag yung pabalik-balik. Okay, and again, guys, one way for you to show off your vocab is by rephrasing. Now, before we proceed to the next skill, let's discuss muna the fourth criterion, which is your grammar. So, I'm not going to discuss this further because we have a separate class for this. In-emphasize ko lang yung vocab kasi related siya dun sa rephrasing eh. Grammatical range and accuracy. So we have a lot of grammar classes. I think we have 8, 7. Yeah, but the rest are just grammar exams. So mga approximately 5 lectures. And then the rest, examinations for grammar. And I believe that those grammar lectures are enough for you to be consistent in your tenses, in your subject-verb agreement, in your preposition usage, and the basic and even the advanced grammar. So we have a separate class for this. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Ayun, CC Grammar. I-discuss natin yan in an individualized lecture which will be done. It's either by me or Ma'am Psyche. So just kindly refer to the schedule lang. Basta for this week, I will be your teacher. But that is still subject to change. Just in case I will not be around. So minsan merong mga changes of schedule or changes of assignments. Yan. But yeah, nevertheless, you still have to be present during the class. Now, so these are the 4 parameters. I'm just going to erase that. Fluency, pronunciation, lexical resource, and vocabulary, and then the grammar, grammatical range, and accuracy. Okay? Now, aside from your rephrasing, what is another skill that you have to learn? One is you need to know how to phrase. I'm sorry. Phrasing. This is more on the pronunciation. Ito yung phrasing, kay pronunciation to eh. What do you mean by phrasing? You should know when to make a pause and when to have a full stop. Kung kailan ka magpo-pause and kailan ka magfo-full stop. Kasi dapat din yun eh. Hindi pwede na boring yung pagka-present mo ng answer mo. Like, sabihin natin, ganun pa rin, what is your name? Hindi pwede na sasabihin mo lang, I'm Blanche Colleen Urbistondo. Ganun lang. Wala man lang ka, yes, you are very enthusiastic, but masyado ko nagmamadali. So why not try to use phrasing? I-apply mo yan. What is your name? I am Blanche Colleen Urbistondo, and you can call me by my first name, Blanche. So ayun, that's an example. That's one example of phrasing. That's my name, by the way. I am Blanche Colleen Urbistondo, and you can call me by my first name, Blanche. Ayun, so dapat marunong kayong mag-phrasing. Hindi pwede diretso-diretso. Yun. So ikaw actually bahala saan ka mag-phrasing. You can say, I am Blanche Colleen Orbistondo. And so pwede ka dito mag-phrase. And pwede din, phrase ka dyan. Parang i-emphasize mo lang si end. Hindi naman nagmamatter talaga. Well, medyo nagmamatter pa rin siya. But as long as acceptable naman yung pagka-phrase mo, okay na yun. So, I am Blanche Colleen Orbistondo, and you can call me by my first name, Blanche. So, that's how you do it, right? Huwag masyado yung atat. Lalo na pag first question or first set of questions, I've noticed talaga sa coaching na parang merong adrenaline rush in answering the questions. And that's probably because you've already studied the question. Like, syempre, normally tayo, pag magsuspeaking, pag sa review, piniprepare talaga natin yung sagot natin for what is your name, where are you from, do you work or do you study, tell me about yourself. Prepared na yun, most likely. Unless na lang if wala ka talagang ganong klaseng preparation. But mostly, ganon eh. We have already prepared answers for it. But the problem is, minsan, when we speak, kasi prepared na eh. Alam na natin yung sasabihin. We still sound mechanical. That's the point eh. We still sound mechanical. It is as if we have memorized the answer. Ayun. That's why you need to add some art to your speaking. You need to add pauses and you need to know when to have a full stop. Yun. So in this case, it's up to you if saan ka mag-emphasize. And usually, kailan ka magpo-pause? If you want to emphasize something, okay? I am Blanche Colleen Urbistondo, and you can call me by my first name, Blanche. So the reason why I had a pause here, by the way, when you say pause, it is just a maximum of 2 seconds. Okay? Kasi pag 5 seconds, full stop na yan. It's not a pause anymore. Kung pwede nga, 1 second lang eh. You can call me by my first name. Yun. I-apply natin yung 2-second pause. You can call me by my first name, 1, 2, Blanche. Okay? Or pwede din 1-second pause. You can call me by my first name, 1, Blanche. Okay? So, ayun. I hope that you will be able to apply that. The phrasing. Importante kasi yun eh. You need to know how to emphasize. And one important thing of having phrasing, pag magpo-pause ka kasi, it will give your examiner a time to process. Enough time to process. Okay? Take note, guys. You have to, lalo na pag gusto mong i-emphasize or parang gusto mo na maintindihan niya talaga yung sinasabi mo. And if you find your statement interesting and you want sino ba to, yung kausap mo to fully digest what you have said, you need to give him time to process. That's why you need to have a pause. Okay? So you can have 1-second pause or 2-second pause. Actually, 1-second pause is already enough. 1-second pause lang. Kasi pag 3 seconds to 5, full stop na yan eh. Masyado na yung mahaba just for a pause. Okay? So learn to phrase. What else? Another skill that you have to learn is slow down. You need to learn how to slow down. Okay. Um, in your speaking, you're pacing. When you say pacing, yung speed mo ba? When you speak, fast, slow, moderate. Okay, but another way for you to really emphasize words and ganun pa rin, give time to your examiner to process what you've said, you have to slow down. Slow down ka. Now, kailan ka magsuslow down? I would suggest if that is the first set of questions, so most likely part 1, 'di ba? Sa part 1, sabihin natin yung mga tanong na what is your name, where are you from, do you work or do you study? Kasi definitely those are the questions that will come out in your examination. So if you will be asked those questions, please don't be overhyped. Okay? Don't be overhyped when you answer the questions. You can be enthusiastic, but not too much. Don't be overhyped when you speak because the more that you will be overhyped, especially sa first part pa lang, the more na makakalimutan mo yung sinabi mo. Okay? And the tendency is you will be off topic. Maybe not in that particular question, but for the next questions. Why? Bakit? Bakit kaya ganun, ma'am? Because you're not giving your brain enough time to think and process. Yun. So, dapat din, bigyan natin ng panahon si utak. Okay? We have to give our brain, our mind to think about what we are going to talk about. Yun. Because if we just speak hastily without even thinking what you are going to put across, one, it's either you will stutter. Two, you will be lacking of vocabularies. And three, you will be off topic. And then the worst case that could happen is that you will totally forget the question. Okay? So please, guys, learn to slow down. Yun. But it's not all the time that you have to slow down. Hindi lahat ng oras. Dapat meron lang mga certain parts din na magsuslow down ka. So, when usually ka magsuslow down? Pag mga first set of questions. First set of questions. Kasi pag dun pa lang, overhype ka na, masyado kang mabilis magsalita. No, what is your name? I am Blanche Orbistondo. Where are you from? I am a resident of blah, 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 which is just 5 hours away from, something like that. If ganun ka magsalita, mamaya, mas kakabahan ka. Ayun, mas kakabahan ka kasi wala ka ng words eh. Parang naubos mo na lahat and hindi mo nabigyan ng oras si utak na magsalita. I mean, mag-isip. Ayun. Yeah, someone raised her hand. Who was that? Um, wait. Yeah, so I will just entertain questions later on. But you can write it down here sa chat box natin. Sa Zoom. Okay, sa Zoom. Wag sa Messenger ha. Because I don't have time anymore to go there just to check for comments or questions. So just maximize our chat box here. If you have questions or, any confusions, you can just write down your concerns here. Dito sa chat box sa Zoom. Okay? And we will answer that maybe after if we still have more time sa discussion. Sige, balik tayo. So, dapat marunong kayong mag-slow down. Yun. Kailan pa ba? When? Aside from the first set of questions. If you're about to end your speech, in your speaking, meron po tayong three parts. Okay? We have part 1. Okay. So, we have part 1, part 2, and part 3. Itong slowing down, effective to kay part 2. If you can still remember, sa part 2 ninyo, you will have a speech. Bibigyan kayo ng 2 minuto na magsalita without interruptions from your examiner. So, para talaga siyang speech. Bibigyan ka ng something to describe, and then you have to talk about it for 2 minutes. Now, if you want to emphasize that you are about to end your speech, you have to slow down. Okay? Kung na-notice niyo yung mga priest, mga pare, or pastors, when they have their preaching, or yung mga, yun, if they have their preaching or yung mass nila, if you notice niyo, pag nagsasalita sila, pag patapos na sila sa sinasabi nila, they're going to slow down. Yun, magsuslow down yan sila. Kasi ibig sabihin nun, the statement is about to be ended. Something like that. Okay, so if you want to emphasize na gusto mo nang tapusin yung sinasabi mo, slow down ka. Not just only for speeches, but even yung mga sabihin natin yung mga short answers ninyo sa question. Yun, it's one way also for you to emphasize that that's the end of your statement. Ganun. Okay? Pag gusto mong i-emphasize na gusto ko nang tapusin yung sinasabi ko, Mr. Examiner, mag-slow down ka. Okay? So yon, those are so far the 4. We have repackage. Let's just review muna before tayo mag-proceed sa ibang skills na pwedeng magamit. Kasi baka makalimutan nyo anong ibig sabihin nila. Okay, repackage. Okay? If your answer has a very negative connotation, i-rephrase mo na lang siya. Yun, i-repackage mo na lang siya para hindi siya offensive kay examiner. Kasi again, medyo subjective pa rin yung speaking. Okay? Medyo subjective pa rin yung speaking. Rephrase. As much as possible, do not parrot your question. Okay, you have to rephrase. You need to find a synonym. Yun, magsisynonym kayo. Gumamit kayo ng mga synonym nila. Yun. And then, of course, you have to know when to do the phrasing. Kung kailan kayo magpo-pause, kailan kayo magpo-full stop. Okay, to add drama to your statement. And para naman hindi monotonous. Yun. And then slow down. If you want to emphasize that you're about to end your statement, you have to slow down. And if you also want to give time kay examiner na mag-process, kailangan mo ding mag-slow down. Okay. What else aside from that? What if, ma'am, I don't know the answer? Okay ba yun, ma'am? Like, what if timing na yung tinanong sa akin is something na wala talaga akong alam? How am I gonna approach that? How can I still show off my English despite my lack of knowledge of the topic? Paano ba yun? Okay. So one way is by chika. Yun, chichikahin mo lang si examiner. You are parang, you will not be really responsive to the question. Okay. So one way is by diverting. Diverting your topic to something else. Ayun. So, diverting lang isusulat ko dito ha. Kayo na bahala. Basta pakilagay nyo lang yung mga parang mga konting meaning para pag later on magre-review kayo, hindi kayo mawawala ano ibig sabihin ni diverting. Ayun. Okay. So when you say diverting, parang idadigress mo yung topic to something else but related. But again, guys, kailan nyo to gagawin? If and only if wala kayong knowledge sa tanong. That's the only time that you can digress, that you can divert it to something else. Because if meron ka namang sagot sa tanong, then you have to answer it. Okay? So, da-divert mo siya to something else. Like, for example, you will be asked about, let me think, nanotechnology. Nanotechnology. Okay? Yun. What if talagang honestly, wala ka talagang idea and mas delikado actually kung magpre-pretend ka na alam mo. Yun, kasi mas magagamit yun against you eh. Yun, mas mabuti pa yung magiging honest ka. So you just have, first that you have to do is, you have to be honest. Sabihin mo muna kay examiner. Okay? So pag hindi mo alam yung sagot, first, eto na lang. Be honest. Yun. Be honest. Yun. And then after that, maybe you can tell about, kasi yung purpose natin is, kahit na hindi mo alam yung sagot sa tanong, even if wala ka masyadong idea sa topic, but yung purpose mo pa rin is to show your English. Ganun pa rin eh. Because at the end of the day, what is being measured is your fluency, your pronunciation, your vocabulary, and then your grammar. So again, guys, be intentional. Hindi pwede na wala kayong strategy. Hindi kayo marunong mag-play ng cards when you speak. You need to know how to play the cards. Okay? And you need to know each card. Yan. That's why you need to take by heart talaga yung fluency, yung pronunciation, yung grammar, at saka vocabulary. So for the new students, please memorize the 4 criteria. Yun. Kasi yun lang yung magpapabagsak or magpapapasa sa'yo sa IELTS. Lalo na sa speaking. Now, if ever you don't know the topic, you can be honest. You can tell the examiner that, yeah, by simply saying that, to be honest, I am not quite knowledgeable about it. Yun, kahit ganun lang. Pero, again guys, English pa rin. Dapat marunong pa rin kayong mag-English. Yun. Kasi kahit hindi kayo marunong magsagot, wala kayong idea, at least marunong pa rin kayong mag-English. Kasi yun naman talaga yung mini-measure dito eh. Yun yung English niyo yung gine-gauge, not really your knowledge. Okay? So, if ikaw, kung gusto mo, pwede mo din lagyan ng parang medyo okay-okay na vocabs. Instead of saying to be honest, you can say, I am afraid that I have a limited knowledge about this. Something like that. Para medyo meron naman siyang char. Okay? Or pwede din, sabihin mo that in as much in as much as I'd like to directly answer the question, but I am afraid that I only have a limited knowledge about this. However, so ganun. Pwede mo nang i-insert dun si diversion. Ida-divert mo siya to something else. Pwede mo sabihin, however, I know that technology is blah, 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 ganito, ganyan. Ayun, even if you're not really able to answer what nanotechnology is, but you were still able to sustain your answer. Kahit hindi ka masyadong fully responsive. And normal yun sa speaking. Normal yun. Kasi talaga, again guys, English pa rin yung tinitest at the end of the day. Okay? So, I would suggest, ngayon pa lang, isulat nyo na ano yung mga parang pang gagamitin ninyo. Ano yung statement na gagamitin ninyo if ever merong topic na hindi mo talaga alam. Dapat gumawa ka na ng parang template but don't memorize it. Yun. Gumawa ka ng template but don't memorize it. Just familiarize. Para natural pa rin yung pagkasabi. Ayun. Kasi pag masyado kayo ding reliant sa templates, yung pagka-exact na order, pag makalimutan mo yung isang word, wala din. Useless. So, mas better na natural lang. Familiarize mo lang yung words. Yun. At least alam mo yung words. Tapos, for sure, lalabas naman yan eh when you speak. Kahit hindi talaga exactly the same. Okay? So, yun. You can have that approach as well. If kung gusto mo ipakita pa rin yung English mo, then you can put some char. Kasi yun naman talaga yung speaking eh. Char-char lang yan. Like, really. It's really char-char. But, at the same time, kailangan mo talaga ni mag-extra mile. Go the extra mile. So, going back, pag hindi mo alam yung sagot, be honest. And then, after nun, divert ka na. Okay? Another approach then is be honest. And then, tell about what's the reason. Why? Yeah, be honest. And then, dapat sabihin mo din, bakit hindi mo alam? Ganon. For example, ano ba yung questions before? Let me think first. Ano yung mga interesting na topics? Um, so, ganun pa rin. Nanotechnology. Let's say, ganun pa rin. Nanotechnology pa rin yung question. Kasi I think wala na akong idea ngayon. Yun, nadidrain na ako. Sige, but yun, nanotechnology pa rin yung question. What is nanotechnology? Ganun pa rin yung tanong. And again, first, you have to be honest. To be honest, sabihin mo lang, okay, to be honest, I'm not really knowledgeable about this topic. That's probably because I wasn't, yan, parang sabihin mo, ano kaya yung reason bakit wala ka masyadong idea kay nanotechnology? So, pwede kang mag-rason, pwede kang mag-alibay na it's probably because I'm not fond of science. Ganun muna. Kahit konti lang, one phrase lang, one sentence. And then after that, divert ka na. However, I know about, however, I know that technology is blah, 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 blah. Or pwede din, sabihin mo that, however, I think that from the term itself, nano, probably this is a technology concerning ganito, ganyan. Di ba when you say nano, maliliit. Yun. So, pwedeng ganun. Mag-context clues ka na lang. Okay? So, if hindi mo alam yung topic talaga, like wala kang specific idea about it, then you can just have context clues. Or, kung hindi ka din confident sa context clues na yan, mag-divert ka na lang. However, I know that technology is something like that. But make sure ha, yung ida-divert ninyo is something that is closely related to the question. Hindi pwede na, however, di ba yun, nanotechnology. Tapos yung sagot mo, however, I know that education is blah, 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 blah. So from nanotechnology, nag-jump ka to education. So hindi pwede talaga yun. Totally hindi yun pwede. But you can divert pag hindi mo alam yung sagot, but make sure that it is closely related. Okay? So, ano yung skill na gagawin ninyo? If you don't know the question, um, yun, diverting. So, ito na lang siguro para be honest, tell why you don't know, and then divert to a related topic or idea, something like that. Okay? But this is again, guys, just siguro magagamit yun lang to once. Hindi pwede all the time. Hindi dapat na tatlong beses itong ginamit na approach kasi halata din yun. That means you're being elusive. You're just trying to skip to answer the questions. Hindi din pwede yun. Dapat mag-effort naman kayong sagutin yung mga tanong. Okay? Hindi yung parang puro ganito na lang. Dapat nga once nyo lang itong gagamitin. This approach ideally should be used once. Maximum na yung twice. Okay? So, at the end of the day, kailangan pa rin natin ng knowledge sa speaking. Yun. Pero hindi naman talaga yun yung ultimate factor. But, kailangan pa rin yun eh. To be honest, kailangan pa rin natin ng knowledge sa speaking. Okay? But learn to be flexible. Kasi we're not God. We are not omniscient. Hindi naman tayo all-knowing. And your examiner really expects that. Alam niya yun eh. Alam niya na merong question that will push you to your limit. And all he or she wants to see is that how are you gonna pull it off despite your lack of knowledge? Yun yung gustong makita ng examiner. Paano ka babawi kahit hindi mo alam yung topic? Paano mo gagamitin yung English mo kahit wala kang idea dun? So yun, pag nagawa mo yun, pag na-pull off mo yun, you won the heart of the examiner. Okay, so guys, it's important for you to really win the heart of your examiner. I told you, you have to learn the psychology of speaking. You have to consider, sino ba yung kinakausap mo? Okay, hindi lang yung parang content ka lang, sasagot-sagot ka lang, alive ka lang dyan, or parang lively lang yung approach mo, pero hindi mo naman kinoconsider sino ba yung kinakausap mo. You also have to win the heart of your examiner. That's why as much as possible, when you speak, it should be conversational and casual. Conversational ka para mas komportable kang magsalita. Kasi pag masyado kang robot or well, masyado kang formal when you speak. Wala naman, it's not necessarily wrong. But sometimes, it reduces your rapport. Parang, it's hard to build rapport with your examiner. R-A-P-P-O-R-T, rapport. Okay, mahirap makabuild ng rapport kay examiner if masyado kang formal. Ayun. Again, guys, try to be as conversational and as casual as possible, especially in parts 1 and 2. Okay? Lalo na sa interview na part. Try to be as conversational as possible. But yung extent nun, yung pagiging conversationalist mo, that doesn't include you asking question, ha? Hindi ibig sabihin na pwede ka maging conversational, magtatanong ka. Like, yun. Sabihin natin, ako, I'm the examiner. I will say, how are you today? And then you will say, I'm fine, thank you. How about you? No, no, no. You never do that in your examination. Okay? Yun yung gagawin. You should never ask questions to your examiner. Except lang. Ano yung question na pwede nilang matanong? Uh, that is if you want to clarify things. That's the only time that you can, okay? That's the only time that you can ask questions. So for example, hindi mo masyadong narinig. Pwede mong sabihin, can you please repeat the question? Or do you mean that blah blah blah? Something like that. Okay? Yun. So speaking of, one skill that you have to learn is clarifying. Uh, yun. Clarifying. You need to know how to clarify things. Okay? So just like in a relationship, if there's no clarity, wala din yan. It's useless. Okay? And in your speaking, if there's no clarity, kahit gaano ba kataas yung sinasabi mo, it's useless. Because first and foremost, you're not even sure of the question if it's the correct question that you've heard. Yun. So that's why if you're confused, you have to clarify. It's fine. Okay lang mag-clarify. Now, vocabs pa rin. Ganun pa rin. Same thing. Ipakita mo pa rin yung vocabulary mo. Sabihin natin hindi mo narinig. Let's say you weren't able to hear the examiner. You can tell to the examiner para mapakita lang yung vocab ha. Kasi pag sasabihin mo lang, can you please repeat the question? Okay naman yun. Can you please repeat the question? Kaso lang generic siya. You see, it's generic. It's common. Probably all of you will be using it. So if you want to stand out from the rest, you can say, would you mind to repeat or would you mind to reiterate the question? Pwede mong sabihin yun. Yun. I'm sorry, but I think I wasn't able to hear you correctly. Would you mind to reiterate the question, please? Something like that. But again, since you are requesting, dapat polite ka. Don't be demanding. Okay? Huwag yung parang magde-demand ka kay examiner. Guys, don't say pardon. Don't say pardon or come again. That's not appropriate for the speaking. And it's demanding. Okay? So don't say come again or pardon. You just have to use another statement instead. Okay? Kayo na bahala paano nyo gagawin. Basta, yun pa rin. Same pa rin kanina. Ngayon pa lang dapat, as early as now, meron na kayong mga templates. If you want to clarify, dapat meron ka ng parang sample template. Ano yung gagamitin mo? Para if ever mangyayari yun, na kailangan mong mag-clarify sa exam, hindi mo na kailangan pag-isipan ano yung words na gagamitin. Diba? Because you already know what are the specific vocabs that you will be using to ask the question. Right? Now, what else? Clarify the question. Can you repeat? I mean, can you change? Can you change your answer? Can you change your answer? Ideally not. Okay, syempre, dapat hindi. You have to be consistent. Okay, that's why consistency also is one of the skills that you need to learn. You need to be consistent with your answers. Hindi pwede na ito yung sagot mo, tapos counterintuitive naman siya sa pangalawang sagot mo. Okay, it should be consistent. Your answers should be consistent. Now, what if sabihin natin na merong gustong i-insist si examiner? Sa part 3 kasi, 'di ba part 1? Part 1 ninyo interview. I-discuss muna natin 'to para mas magets niyo. Part 1, this is the interview type. Okay? And you will be asked personal questions. And this is something na medyo sanay na tayo kasi nga expected natin yung mga tanong eh. What is your name? How old are you? Where are you from? Ano bang trabaho mo? Can you please describe yourself? Tagasan ka ba? So yun, interview type talaga siya for the part 1. Although, meron ding portion sa part 1 na tatanungin ka regarding specific things. For example, the examiner will tell you, let's talk about coffee and tea. Do you like coffee? So yun, meron ganun pa rin na portion. But still, personal yan sa part 1. And we also have the part 2. The part 2 is this one is your speech. Okay, I call it speech. Ayun. But actually, ikaw lang magsasalita the whole time. That's why I call it speech. It's a 2-minute speech. Yun. 2-minute speech siya. And basically, you're going to describe something, someone, a place, an event, an experience, a time. Basta magde-describe ka niyan for 2 minutes. That's for the part 2. Okay? But don't worry because you will be given 1 minute to prepare. Yun lang, yun nga lang. Medyo limited talaga yung time. 60 seconds lang to prepare for a 2-minute speech. But if you have your coaching and you just do your part, definitely you can pull off the 2-minute speech. And then for the part 3, this one is the two-way discussion. So dito applicable sa lahat naman actually. Pero gusto ko lang i-emphasize to sa part 3. Two-way discussion. Bakit ba siya two-way? Hindi ibig sabihin na two-way discussion ha, makikipag-debate sa examiner sa'yo. But there is a tendency that your examiner is going to question your ideas. Ayun. Ika-question niya yung ideas mo. Example, sinabi mo about death penalty. You were asked about death penalty. Regarding if you agree or disagree with this. And then you said, I agree. Sabihin natin yun yung sagot mo, I agree with death penalty. Tapos si examiner, kasi two-way discussion to, question niya yung sagot mo. Don't you think that death penalty, or something like that, don't you think that people are wrongfully sentenced? Something like that. So sabihin natin ganun yung question niya. Ayun. So ikaw, dapat marunong ka din na maging consistent sa answer mo. Okay? Even if the examiner is going to question your idea. Ayun. Okay? So, ikaw bahala paano mo talagang i-justify yung sagot mo. Pero guys, merong mga times na pag si examiner, i-repeat niya yung question. Kasi merong mga ganong examiners they're really going to repeat the question. If ever that happens, if ever the examiner repeats a question, and yet sinagutan mo na siya kanina pa lang, tapos binalik niya pa rin yung tanong, ibig sabihin nun, you weren't able to answer the question. Hindi mo nasagot yung tanong. It's not because mali yung opinion mo, but it's probably because off topic talaga yung answer mo. Okay? Like, assuming the question is, deforestation. Deforestation. Tapos yung sagot mo, sabihin natin mali yung pagkarinig mo. Sabi mo, reforestation. So, syempre si examiner, meron kasi mga examiner na hindi ka nila sasabihan explicitly na mali yung sagot mo. One way for them to tell you that your answer is not correct is by repeating the question. So, if the examiner repeats the question, that's your cue. Clue mo yan eh. That's your guide na maybe your answer is totally off topic. Okay? So, pag if ever ganun, you can change your answer. And then just apologize. Sabihin mo lang, I'm sorry, I think I did not get your question earlier. But let me change my answer instead. So, pwede mo na siyang, that's the only time that you can change your answer. If ever the examiner repeats a question and obvious na mali talaga yung pagka-intindi mo sa question, so that's the time that you can rephrase. Okay? Ayun. So, yun, kapag klaro naman na mali ka, i-ditch mo na si consistency. Hindi pwede na co-consistent ka lang na parang paninindigan mo talaga kahit klaro naman na mali. 'Di ba? So, ayun. All right. So, yun, in relation to that, consistency, another, na-discuss natin siya actually, yun, concession. Yun, you have to be consistent. Yun. Pero pag merong mga times na feel mo na nire-repeat ni examiner yung question, tapos na-notice mo na, mali pala yung sagot ko. Mali pala yung pagkaintindi ko ng question. Mag-apologize ka. Sabihin mo that, I'm sorry, but I think I did not get the question earlier. But I would like to change my answer. Something like that. So, yun na. That's the only time that you can concede. Yun. So, tawag natin doon concession. Meaning, i-admit mo. Okay? You're going to concede. Ayun. But again, yun lang. If halata na mali ka. Pero if if feel mo naman na parang tama naman yung sagot mo and pina-power trip ka lang ng examiner, gusto niya lang talagang i-question yung sagot mo kahit valid naman siya, then you have to be consistent. Okay? You have to be consistent. Kasi if pa-change ka din ng answer, that means you're indecisive. Okay? You haven't made up your answer. You haven't made up your mind regarding your answer. And hindi mo pinag-isipan yung sagot. So, ganun yung implication niya. Ayun. So, again, let's go back to those skills that you can apply while speaking. Repackage. Okay. Dapat marunong kayong change to a statement, change an offensive statement into a non-offensive one. And then you have to rephrase, wag kopyahin kung ano yung sinabi sa question. Phrasing, dapat marunong kayong mag-pause, marunong kayong mag-full stop, at dapat alam nyo saan magpo-full stop and magpo-pause. Slow down, okay, to process and to emphasize that you're about to end your statement. And now, pag hindi mo alam yung sagot, you can be honest. Tell why you don't know about the topic, and then you can divert it to a related topic or idea. And then you end. I-emphasize ko lang to dito ha. Ito muna. Ayan. Huwag niyo masyadong habaan. If hindi niyo alam yung sagot sa question, huwag niyo masyadong habaan yung chika ninyo. Okay? So, yung enough lang. Sabihin mo lang na hindi mo alam yung sagot, or wala kang masyadong idea sa topic, sabihin mo kung bakit, tapos i-divert mo siya, and then i-end mo na. Kasi pag i-end mo na, mako-compel si examiner to proceed to the next question. So somehow, na-save ka na from that question. Kasi walang choice examiner eh. Pag wala ka talagang sagot, magpo-proceed talaga yan sa next question. Okay, so mas better i-end mo na lang kaysa magchichika-chika ka pa dyan tapos wala ka naman ng idea sa topic na yun. Okay? And then of course, you have to clarify. Hindi pwede na sasagot ka even if hindi ka naman sure sa question. Okay, if hindi mo masyadong narinig, you can be polite and then ask your examiner to reiterate it for you. Okay, or if the question is quite ambiguous, like parang there are two possible meanings out of it, then you can also clarify. Okay, like for example, you will be asked, what are the effects of global warming? So you can also clarify, do you mean positive or negative? Pwede naman ganun. Or pwede din naman, diretso ka na lang, categorize mo na lang siya to positive or negative. But again, you can still clarify. Okay, if parang it will rob you peace, it's not expensive to clarify. Okay lang magka-clarify. But make sure na hindi all the time. Kasi kung meaning, Kung palagi kang panay ka nagka-clarify halos lahat na ng question, ibig sabihin nun, you're not attentive. Okay, you're not attentive, you're out of focus, you're out of your mind, you're not listening well. So part of the speaking, by the way, is listening. Part yan eh, parte yun. So kung hindi ka marunong makinig sa sinasabi ng examiner, meron din yung certain deductions. Okay, so as much as possible, ilang beses lang kayo magka-clarify. Pangalawang beses. Yun lang yung maximum. Kasi pag pangatlo, pang-apat, pang-lima na, there's really something wrong. Okay, there is something wrong. Ibig sabihin nun, you're not attentive. Baka wala kang tulog. Maybe you're sleep deprived, that's why. So that is why also, guys, please take as much rest and sleep as you can prior to your examination. Huwag kayong pull out ng all-nighter. Yung parang magsa-study kayo the night before. No, that's not recommended. It's just a waste of time. Okay? So if you want to study like intensive, do it 1 week before, but not 3 days or lalo na yung the night before your exam. Useless talaga yan. And madadamay lang yung writing, reading, and other subtests mo. Okay? Yun. And of course, we have consistency and concession. You need to learn how to concede. Dapat marunong tayo mag-admit. If we commit a mistake, we have to be humble enough to concede. Yun, to admit that we have committed the mistake. Okay? So, learn to concede. If kung obvious naman na mali talaga yung sinagot mo kanina, pwede mo namang sabihin, I think I wasn't able to really get your question earlier. I would like to change my answer. Yun, ganun, sabihin mo na lang ganun sa examiner. Okay? Again, paano mo malalaman na kailangan mong i-change yung answer mo pag ni-repeat ni examiner yung question? Ibig sabihin nun, hindi mo naintindihan yung tanong. Okay? Pag ni-repeat niya yung question, kahit sinagot mo na siya kanina, ibig sabihin nun, hindi tama yung sagot. Like, hindi talaga tama yung pagka-interpret ng question. Okay, so merong mga ganong examiner. Alright. Questions you may have, anyone, in the speaking. What are the challenges that you usually encounter when you speak? Especially those who have already gone coaching. What are the challenges that you usually encounter while speaking? While we still have 20 minutes to discuss it. Anyone? Can you still hear me? Hello? Uh, am I still audible? Can you still hear me? There's one question here. Wait. Okay. Just a heads up. Since now it's a pandemic, and you see there are really certain changes in the protocols of taking the IELTS, and one of which is you will be wearing mask. Okay, in your examination, you will be wearing masks. For most of you guys, I'm not sure with other countries, but here in the Philippines, you will definitely be wearing mask. That's the one. That's the recommended for both the examiner and the student. Ngayon, since magmamask kayo, I would really suggest, guys, when you practice, try nyo nga magmask. But, if hindi nyo kaya, kasi baka, you also have to assess eh. Kasi there are people na, they're really having a hard time to speak using a mask. Di ba ang hirap magsalita, nakamask. Tapos mag-iisip ka pa, so parang wala na, lahat ng oxygen, wala na. Ayun, so I would suggest na mag-practice talaga kayo using a mask. Even with a face shield, kung pwede. Yung dalawa, parang dalawang setup. Yung naka-mask kayo, at saka yung naka-mask and with face shields. Para whatever man yung requirement sa examination ninyo, at least alam nyo na yung setup and hindi kayo yung parang, yun, parang mahihirapan just because you haven't tried it first. So I would suggest, guys, if you want to practice on your own, if you want to have someone else assess you, try to wear a mask. Yun. Because it will definitely affect your speech, right? Yung loudness ng voice mo, even your pronunciation probably will be affected. And yung comfortability mo mismo. Di ba maapektuhan, parang uncomfortable na gagamit ka ng mask tapos nagsasalita ka pa. Ayun. So at least man lang masanay kayo. Okay? And what else? Uh, usually kasi sa, sorry, sa examination, it's one table away. One table away kayo from your examiner. But since it's a pandemic, so probably mas mahaba pa yung distance ninyo from your examiner. Okay, so medyo hindi talaga kayo magkalapit niyan. Of course, because it's one way for us to avoid having COVID. Yun. So, most likely, mas malayo kayo sa examiner compared before. So, kasi usually, it's one table away. So, baka ngayon, medyo mas malayo ka na kay examiner. So, dapat ganun din. I-practice nyo din yun na yung kausap ninyo medyo malayo. And then, ipa-assess mo if kumusta ba yung boses mo. Kasi baka hindi marinig. Yan. What else? Meron ding mga ibang test senders. Kasi, pag speaking, closed space talaga yan. It's really a separate room with no people around. Kayo lang at saka si examiner. Okay, closed space talaga yan. Room yan siya. Isolated. Now, since it's a pandemic, meron pa ring possibility na open space na kayo. It can be somewhere outside, pero kayo pa rin, examiner. So, dapat, sanay kayo sa dalawang setup. Okay? You have to be used to both setups. Like, in a closed space, mag-practice kayo na na doon kayo sa closed space na yun. For example, a room. Okay, ikaw lang at saka yung kausap mo, yun lang. Closed space. And then mag-practice din kayo na open space para masanay because you need to have your, ma-feel nyo yung exam. Dapat. Ngayon pa lang. Okay. Syempre, meron naman tayong coaching, pero the coaching is not physically done. It's still online. It's virtual. And mahirap i-assess yung modulation. Yun. Pero if kung personal, mas yung kausap mo, sabihin natin mag-assign ka lang. Let's say your friend, your best friend. Uy, best friend, paki-assess mo naman yung speaking ko. Tanungin mo ako ng mga ganitong questions and then ganito ka kalayo sa akin tapos mag-face mask ako. Please let me know if okay ba yung voice ko, if maririnig ba ako, okay, if ganito ganyan. So, you can have someone else to assess you aside from your coaches. Okay? Kasi iba din yung physical na yung mag-a-assess sa'yo at saka yung sa virtual lang. Alright? And then what else do you need to consider? Definitely, there will be some changes. Maybe for some of you here, you have already taken the exam before, okay, and you have to retake the exam for some reasons. Definitely, there will be some changes in the processing. Not sa processing sa yung application ha, but yung dun mismo sa testing center ninyo. So that's why you have to be there ahead of time talaga. Okay? Because for sure, meron na yan silang parang contract tasting, ganito, ganyan. So, ayun. You have to be there as early as possible, right? And once you're done with your examination, you really have to vacate the place. Once you're done, hindi kayo pwedeng magstay sa lobby. Even before COVID, ganun talaga yung policy nila. Hindi pwede na makakita nila yung student pagtapos na sa speaking, for example, na nandun ka pa sa lobby. So, dapat, pagtapos ka na sa speaking, right there and then, exit ka na. Lumabas ka na ng place or hotel. Usually, hotel kasi yan eh. So, lalabas ka na talaga dun. Ayun. Kasi you might be called out by your invigilator for staying at the lobby. Ayaw kasi nila yun. Why? They want to avoid you sharing topics to your co-examinees. So that's basically the reason why they have to let you vacate the place as soon as you're done with your speaking, or even the listening, reading, writing. Okay? And what else? Mm, generally applicable to sa Pilipinas. I'm not sure with other countries ha, but in the Philippines, I have a student kasi na possibly she is going to take the exam for 2 days, like separate days for listening, reading, writing, and then separate to speaking. It's actually in Cagayan de Oro. It's in Northern Mindanao. CDO, Cagayan de Oro, Northern Mindanao. And she has to take the test for 2 days. First day is for the speaking, and then another day for the listening, reading, writing. So I suggested her that to appeal, to have it just in one day. Okay, to have it just in one day to avoid, you know, exposure. Kasi dapat ngayon kasi with COVID, i-minimize talaga natin yung exposure natin. Lalo na sa mga places na medyo hotspots pa sa COVID or medyo delikado pa, dapat talaga i-minimize natin yung exposure. Even yung pag-take ng exam, if there's a way that you can appeal to your testing center to have your exam in just one day, please do so. Lalo na if kung yun, sabi natin magte-take ka ng exam sa Cebu, sa Manila, or somewhere na medyo delikado, even in CDO, delikado pa rin yun. Yun, so pwede kayo mag-request. Sabihin mo lang na malayo yung lugar ninyo, and medyo expensive din to rent or to rent an accommodation. Kasi pag 2 days kayo, expensive talaga yun. Mas expensive yun because you have to stay there. Not just only for 2 days, but even for 3 days nga at most. So, medyo expensive yun. So, you can just let them know na magta-take ka lang ng exam kung kaya, kung pwede, na 1 day lang siya. But, you also have to assess yourself. Kaya mo ba na 1 day lang sa exam? Okay? Yung parang purpose lang kasi natin na i-1 day natin siya is ma-avoid nang yung ma-minimize na yung exposure natin sa mga tao, sa mga examiner, kasi yun nga, COVID eh. Yun. So, yun yung purpose nun. Pero din, yung maganda din kasi sa 2 days, like yung speaking, separate day siya, mas meron kang time to relax, and hindi ka masyadong drain. Ayun. Kaso nga lang, prolonged yung agony mo. Yun, parang hindi ka pa, wala ka pang peace of mind yan kasi you still have to take the speaking in another day. So, kaya pa rin mag-decide at the end of the day. Okay, but if you're confused, you can actually ask your coach. You can ask us if you're not quite sure if when you're going to take your examination, where, and ano ba yung type of test? Magpe-paper-based ka ba? Magko-computer delivered? Sa Pilipinas ka ba magte-take or sa labas? Ano ba? So if you have any concerns, just feel free to message us. Okay, but don't expect that we can respond right away, especially if it's beyond working hours. Syempre, we also have our private lives and we have to make the most of it. So just, yun na lang. Mag-adjust na lang kayo if ever meron kayong mga concerns. But if you want to have it directly addressed, mas better na ngayon pa lang sa klase, discuss na natin yun. Okay, so if meron kayong questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Anyone, do you have any questions? Any question regarding the speaking or IELTS as a whole? We still have 10 minutes. We're done with discussing the skills that you can use for the speaking. Okay, so these are just some of them, but there are still more, and you will learn that along the way. As you join the speaking classes, you will learn more. Okay, so I would recommend that you attend another speaking skills enhancement. Yun, kasi pag sa speaking skills enhancement, iba-iba ka din kasi yung teacher eh. Minsan, ako yung nagsi-speaking skills enhancement. Minsan si Ma'am Psyche. Minsan, iba naman yung teacher. And medyo nagva-vary pa rin yung discussion. Meron pa rin mga additional inputs. Merong, yun, mga supplemental. So, by attending as many skills enhancement as possible, for sure, mas marami kayong malilearn. Lalo na from one coach to another or from one lecturer to another. Okay? So, hindi ibig sabihin nun, naka-attend ka na ng, ngayon, speaking skills enhancement, hindi ka na mag-a-attend next time. Yan. You can still attend. And expected talaga na meron yung mga additional inputs, wala sa previous discussion, tapos merong addition, or merong mga updates, something like that. Okay, so I would really suggest that you still attend classes even if you're done with it. Unless na lang if mga mock exam. Mock exam, exercises, yun pabalik-balik kasi yun eh. Example, average listening. Yung average listening ngayon, same pa rin yan sa average listening next month. Yung mock exam 1 ngayon, same pa rin yan sa mock exam 1 next month. So, yung mga exercises at saka yung mga mock exams, same lang yan siya. So, pwede na if kung tapos ka na dun, hindi ka na mag-a-attend. Okay? But for lectures, I would really recommend exhaust. Okay? While you still have time, while you still have the energy, and you can still attend the class, please do it. Kasi sayang yung learning that you can learn. Okay? From your coaches or from your lecturers. Alright? Questions you may have? Wala ba talagang question sa speaking? How do you find your speaking? Is it just comment? Comment lang kayo dito sa chat box. Do you find it difficult or ito na lang. Which one is much easier for you? Speaking or writing? Which one is much easier? Speaking or writing? So just comment down below. Wala lamang below dito. So just comment it here sa chat box natin. Okay, yeah, someone said speaking. Who else? Speaking. Speaking. Ayan, speaking. Oh, wala. May iba, writing. Speaking. Speaking. Writing is easier. Yeah, it's still relative, no? So, iba-iba pa rin tayo ng opinion. Well, ako, personally, I find, san ba? Depende. Depende. It depends. Yun, depende pa rin. It depends. Speaking, but I'm not confident. Writing is easier. Okay, speaking. Yeah. Yes. I think a lot of you said na speaking pero hindi confident. So, how can you be confident in your speaking? Paano ba, ma'am? If kung pwede lang, sapian tayo ng spirit ni Sir Irvin at saka ni Sir Philip, Sir Brian Shawson. These are actually our national lecturers. I think some of you here know them already. And maybe you've met them also personally. They're really good. Kung pwede lang sana sapian tayo nila, no? But yes, it's still so possible for you to be like them, to get 9.0 in your speaking, or even 8, or at least 7 in your speaking. Just be inspired by those people and just do your part. Now, how can you really be practically? Paano ba? Ano ba yung mga practical ways for you to be confident? One way is by vocalizing. I think I've already mentioned this before. You have to vocalize. Ooh. Kailangan ba talaga mag-vocalize, ma'am? It's a speaking. We're not singing. Well, actually, you have to. You need to vocalize. It's one way for your voice to be relaxed and hindi ka mahirapan magsalita. Kung pwede nga, mag-facial exercise din, mas better. Okay? It's one way for you to be, at least man lang, yung parang posture mo and yung voice mo, confident siya pakinggan. So, mag-vocalize kayo. Yun talagang ginagawa ng mga singer. Yun. So, marami namang ways in which you can vocalize. So, mag-watch na lang kayo sa YouTube kung ano ba yung mga ways para mag-vocalize. Helpful yan. Kahit dalawa lang. Dalawang routine or dalawang, ano ba tawag dyan? Something like that. Basta dalawa or isa. Basta lang parang ma-relax na yung throat mo at saka yung bibig. And then facial exercise. One way, para hindi masyadong stiff yung mouth mo. Kasi minsan ganun eh. The reason why we are so restricted in our pronunciation or even in, yun, parang yung enunciation natin is because we haven't done a facial exercise first. So if kung gusto niyo talagang itodo na natin tong speaking, mag-vocalize kayo, mag-facial exercise kayo just to make your mouth relaxed. Okay? Mas komportable ka kasing mag-speak if you have facial exercise. Pero not too much kasi baka sumakit yung panga mo or something. But just enough lang. Ma-prepare lang, parang warm up ba? Kailangan mo mag-warm up before ka magsasalita dun. Kasi remember, you have 15 minutes. You will be talking to an examiner for 15 minutes and you can't be so tensioned. You have to relax your muscles, your face, even your tongue should be prepared because you will be facing an examiner who might even be strict. 'Di ba? Hindi natin alam. Baka strict yung examiner mo. Tapos ikaw, parang yung panga mo, hindi mo man lang ma-move. So at least man lang prepared ka on that aspect. Okay? Facial exercise. What else? Tongue twisters. Do your tongue twisters. The reason why you have to do your tongue twisters is it will help you not to stutter. Lalo na if I'm not stutter, but not to be tongue twisted. If ever you will be speaking fast. Kasi meron talaga mga ganun eh. There are times that you have to speak fast. By the way, guys, um, I forgot to put it here. Pacing is one of the skill. Dapat marunong kayong mag-slow down, marunong kayong mag-fast, marunong din kayo yung moderate lang na speed. Yun. So, yun. But huwag kayo mag-alala, we have a discussion for this in your pronunciation 1. No. Pronunciation 2. Pronunciation 2. Yun. Now, going back, tongue twisters. This will help you to avoid getting tongue twisted yun, from the term itself. And this will also make you more confident even if you speak fast. Mas clear din yung voice mo at saka yung sounds ng words, ng vowels, ng consonants mo if you know how to do the tongue twisters. Kailan ka magdo-tongue twisters? Lalo na pag meron kang problema sa SH, CH, ST, TH, T, kailangan mo talaga mag-tongue twisters. Okay, you really have to make tongue. But regardless if you have some problems with those vowel sounds or consonant sounds, you still have to do some tongue twisters. Okay, again, it's one way for you to prepare yourself for the speaking. What else? Vocalizing, facial exercise, tongue twisters. Yeah, someone asked, will they ask questions based on your profession? Example, nurse. Okay. Yes, that's possible. For example, you will say, you will be asked, do you work or do you study? And then you've mentioned that you are currently employed in a tertiary hospital in the Philippines for 5 years now. Sabihin natin nasabi mo yun, that you are a nurse. And yun, there's a little possibility that the examiner will have a follow-up question regarding your profession. But not necessarily na tatanungin ka about jargons or mga, technicalities. Most likely personal pa rin. Personal pa rin. Siguro tatanungin ka, why did you choose the job? Bakit ka nag-nurse? Or what made you want to go to abroad? Something like that. Okay? But yes, it's possible that you will be asked regarding your profession. And minsan nga din, doon nakabase si examiner if ano yung iki-question sa inyo. Ano ibig sabihin nun, ma'am? Yung level of difficulty. The level of difficulty. Example, you've mentioned that you obtained a master's degree. Okay? You mentioned that you obtained a master's degree. Also sa examiner, yung expectation niya, okay, nakapag-master's to. So yung question ko is, bibigyan ko to ng medyo mahirap. Ganon. So parang, ile-level niya din yung ibabase niya yung level of difficulty. Depende din kung ano yung tingin niya sa iyo. Pag feel niya na parang matalino ka or kaya mo based on your profession or yung background mo, pwede niya yung maging basis para malaman if ano yung mga possible questions that will push you to your limit. Kasi ganoon naman talaga yung parang goal nila eh. It's not necessarily to para maging, bumagsak ka, but their goal is to push you to your limit. Because that's really their way to gauge if magaling ka ba talaga mag-English. Kasi yun yung purpose dapat eh. That's one way for them to know if dapat ka ba talaga maka-7. Ayun. So they will push you to your limit. For example, babae ka. So generally, babae are not into, the girls are not into cars. Yan, but, well, that's still subjective. Pero parang ganun, di ba? Meron ganung notion. Ayun na, girls are not into cars. So, merong possibility that you will be asked about it. So, minsan gender-based din yung question. Pero opposite. Yung kung for example, lalaki ka, tatanungin ka ng something na yung ikaw bilang isang lalaki, hindi makaka-relate. So, merong ganun mga examiners. Okay? So, that's why, if you will have your examination, meron yan silang manual. They have a manual with them. And this is where the questions are listed down. And all they have to do is just choose which questions they will be asking you. And minsan, titignan ka pa nila. Okay, babae siya. So, I will be asking her about blah, blah, blah. Since sa tingin ko, parang hindi makaka-relate yung mga babae nito, so tatanungin ko siya tungkol sa mga cars. So, let's see if magaling ba talaga siyang mag-English. So, ganun. Same din sa lalaki. Okay? So, meron ganun ng mga tendency si examiner. Pero not all the time, ha? Meron namang mga examiner na walang pakialam. Basta tatanungin ka lang nila ng something and then sasagot, okay na yun. Pero merong mga ganong examiner. Yung parang gusto talaga nilang makita yung English mo. Okay? So, just expect for those times. And that's why I would suggest that you prepare for those questions that might push you to your limit. Okay? Now, lastly, we are going to end our discussion now. I would want you to download this application. I know that for most of you here, you have already downloaded it. You should have downloaded it. Kasi ang tagal-tagal nyo na dito, so dapat nakapag-download na kayo ng IELTS Speaking Assistant. Now, what is this application? This application is very useful, and so far, the students who took the examination have also used this, and they got good scores in their speaking. Some of them even get as high as 8, 8.5 in their speaking because they already knew beforehand what will be the questions. So nandito po, in short, this application has the real exam questions. This is also the reason why I would recommend it. I would recommend that you purchase the application. Okay, I have no commission for this, and I'm not even connected. The one who created this one is British Council. The British Council. So si British Council po yung gumawa. So if kung na-remember nyo pa, sa major classes ninyo, there are two testing centers. We have the IDP and the British Council. So there are two testing centers, right? We have the IDP and the British Council. And the one who created this application is the British Council. So therefore, it's really reliable. And I can really attest because our students who took the examination before used this, and accordingly, lumabas daw mga 90% ng questions na na-discuss na namin using this application, lumabas daw. And they were really so confident. And sure enough, they got as high as 8.5, 8, 7.5, or at least 7 in their speaking. So I believe that this one is very helpful. Yeah, where to get it, ma'am? Okay, you can download this in the, for Android, it's Google Play Store, if I'm not mistaken. Basta yung parang, para siyang App Store ng iOS. Yun. Yun. So, I think it's Google Play Store. I'm not sure. But, yun. So, parang Google Play Store ata siya sa Android. Tapos, sa iOS, okay, you can download it sa App Store. Ayun. So, search nyo lang IELTS Speaking Assistant. Yung color nun is Ano bang color niya ngayon? It's color green. Yeah. IELTS Speaking Assistant. It's color green. So just search for it and then download it. Okay. And you can also purchase this application, which costs around 500 pesos per month. Per month siya. I think mas makaka-less kayo if kung per year nyo siya. Hindi ko lang sure if kung ilan siya. Basta yung alam ko lang is 500, almost 500 siya per month. So you can pay it through credit card. Pwede ata din load. I haven't tried the load. Yun, but yun, explore lang kayo paano nyo siya ipo-purchase. So, maybe after this discussion, you can go to our group chat sa Facebook Messenger, and I will give you the instructions how to purchase the IELTS speaking assistant. It's really a good investment, especially for those who have limited time. Lalo na yung mga limited time na lang, sabihin natin isang month na lang, magte-take ka na ng exam. Or 2 weeks na lang, magte-take ka na ng exam. You still have time. You still have the chance to prepare yourself for the speaking. Iba kasi pag alam mo yung tanong eh. Kaysa yung mag-guess-guess ka lang, ano ba yung lalabas? Ganun kasi before eh, parang nag-guess-guess lang kami, anong lalabas? And yung ending hindi naman lumalabas. So parang nakaka-disappoint that you've prepared for those questions and yet the chance of them coming out in the examination is just 10%, 1%, 2%. But this one, para safe, siguro mga 70 or 80% lalabas yung questions. Okay? But again, don't be complacent. Hindi ibig sabihin na meron na kayong parang leak. Hindi na kayo magsa-study ng speaking. Kaya nga dapat i-download nyo to eh para makapag-prepare kayo. 'Di ba? So if you want to really unlock the features, kung gusto mo talagang ma-fully enjoy yung application, bilhin mo siya. Pero you can still access this one for free. And actually, magagamit mo pa rin siya, like parts 1, 2, and 3, you can still enjoy it for free. Kaso lang, medyo limited yung answers. Kasi pag bibilhin mo siya, ma-unlock mo yung lahat ng sample answers, which I believe is really helpful. Para kung for example, tinatamad ka ng mag-research, parang, ay, wala na akong oras mag-research for these questions. At least you can just read the sample answer and get some idea from it. Okay, so yun yung purpose why you have to download this IELTS speaking assistant as early as possible. It will really come in handy. It is really going to come in handy when you take your examination. Okay, so I think that's it for this afternoon's discussion. Um, I will see you this evening, and please just keep posted for my instructions tomorrow. I'm not quite sure if I will be around either in the morning or in the afternoon kasi hindi pa fix yung schedule sa power outage namin. But what I know is that there will be a power outage tomorrow, but I'm not quite certain as to the time. So I will just let you know if I will be around in the morning or in the afternoon. Nevertheless, we are still going to push through with the class. Meron pa rin klase. Kaso lang, I will not be physically available. Yun. So, depende pa rin. Okay? Basta yun, punta lang kayo dun sa group chat for any announcement. Right? Yun. So, I think wala na sigurong question kasi panay naman ako ng tanong kanina. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's all for this afternoon. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And I hope that you have learned something out from this discussion. And of course, make sure that you also apply them, right? And just do your part, and God will really do the rest. Yun. I believe na magpe-pay off naman yung efforts ninyo, even if, I know that's really a hard time, lalo na ngayon. In this season, ang hirap mag-take ng exam. It's so hard to focus. But, yun ganun talaga. Sabi pa nga nila, that's the price that you have to pay for your ambition. But definitely, it will pay off. Okay. So, that's it. I will see you tomorrow or this evening. So just keep posted for instructions. And should you have any concerns, you can message me or even our technical support if you want to ask for assistance regarding Zoom or anything, basta about technicalities or mga pang technical aspect, you can chat our technical support, Miss Tin. So she's also in the chat box sa Facebook Messenger. Yun. And if you have inquiries regarding IELTS as a whole or the test or yung application nyo for the exam, you can also tap me or even Ma'am Psyche. Pero don't ask her if it's not her schedule kasi syempre we have to respect also the privacy of yung time namin, yung day off. Yan. Okay? So that's all. I will see you and God bless everyone. Keep safe. Bye-bye.